45 minutes after the hour here on the most listened to radio program on earth, the Sir Daryl Radio Experience. Hey, you can always feel free to give us a call. Toll free, 1-877-DARRYL6, 1-877-DARRYL number 6. Those are for the intelligent listeners. If you are an imbecile and you cannot figure out the corresponding numbers that go with the letters DARRYL, we will still take your call. However, I refuse to pay for it. You are an imbecile and you must call the imbecilic line, which is area code 201-793-8255. I do want to make sure that I get enough time to do this before we end this hour, and that is dealing with cartoons. You know, when I was growing up, there were several cartoon characters. There were a few. I would say the top two that I found most attractive were Betty Rubble and Betty Boop. And I remember that friends of mine really didn't understand where I was coming from with this whole Betty Rubble thing. The Betty Boop they got because she was drawn in a way that was designed to sexually entice the male who was a human being. I mean, Betty Boop enticed males that were in the drawing with her. But she also was actually able to get arousals out of men or growing boys that were human and flesh, unlike Miss Boop. Well, I understood that because Betty Rubble always did the same thing for me. And I can't exactly tell you what it is about Betty because I can't really give you the features of the woman because she was a drawing. So, I mean, how detailed could you actually get? But there was something extremely seductive about Betty. There was something that was amazingly sexy about Miss Rubble. And I remember thinking to myself that Barney does not truly appreciate the woman that he's gotten there. And I always thought that that was going to be a great opportunity for some other guy to move in on the situation. But nobody ever did. Nobody ever moved in on the Rubble situation when Barney was gone, or at least the cameras didn't show that. Perhaps something was happening behind the scenes we don't know, but the cameras never really showed any sort of extramarital affairs or anything like that went on about Betty Rubble. But I used to always say to myself, when you have a woman like that, you've got to treat her properly, or else somebody's just going to come in and sweep her off her feet. I was always unattracted to Wilma for some reason. Wilma was a mess to me. She was not very attractive at all, though the body structure was very similar to Betty's. I think that the hairdo was a turnoff for me, I was a short kid, and Betty, I got the impression that Betty was about my height, but Wilma, I saw her as towering over me, and then that hairdo kind of made her look a lot older than she actually may have been, and it just was a turnoff for me. But Betty Rubble was superb. I even liked her voice. I liked everything about the woman. And the realization that she was a cartoon character and fictional, for whatever reason, didn't deter me from having these strong Betty Rubble type desires. I would say that the fact that she was married had more of an impact on me than she was a cartoon. And I think that that's really probably ass backwards. I probably should have been more focused on the fact that she was not real than I was that this fictional character, if as it were, was married. But I focused more on the married portion of it, and I don't know why. I'm looking at this list, and these are the list of the sexiest cartoon characters, and Betty Rubble is on it, but she's nowhere near where I would want her to be. Marge Simpson is on the list. I don't get that at all. I don't find Marge Simpson attractive in the least. That blue hair, first of all, is a turnoff. Anytime that I see a blue hair, I think to myself, you're dealing with an elderly person. Even if that person doesn't have the image of being elderly, I still think it when I see the blue hair. But even if you take the blue hairs away from that, Marge is just not an attractive woman. She doesn't have a good body. She doesn't have really cute features. There's like nothing about her that she is more attractive than Olive Oil. Don't get me wrong. Olive Oil should not be on the list. But if you had to make a list until all of the characters ran out, then Olive Oil should be at the bottom of the list, and probably right above her should be Marge Simpson. Now, Betty Rubble is number 21st on the list. One of the comments listed here is Betty Rubble was very sexy for the Dino days. And see, that's kind of my point. Forget about the Dino days. Betty Rubble was just sexy, period. For any days. I mean, come on. How did she not make a higher ranking than 21? Betty Rubble was a whole package. She was the triple threat. She had the body, she had the face, she had the voice. She was everything to that cartoon. She was the reason that I watched that cartoon. If there were no Betty Rubble, I don't think I'd be interested in it. Now, Lois Griffith is on the list. She's cute, you know, but she is nothing that I'm going to write home about either. This is a very confusing list. I don't get it. Like, I don't understand what was in the... Maybe it's because they're cartoon characters and it's just more difficult to even come up with somebody. I don't know. Cinderella made 18 on the list, which I think is a bit weird. I mean, Cinderella is a beauty. She's very attractive, but she's not like fine, if you get what I'm saying. Cinderella is not in any way sexy. She's very attractive, but she's not sexy. And this is the list of the sexiest cartoon characters. Cinderella would be like Lena Horne. When you think about Lena Horne, you think about somebody that is very attractive in her youth, but not, sexy just doesn't fit because she's just a little bit more, she's too classy to call sexy. I think that this is wrong. I don't think Cinderella should be on there. Now, above Cinderella, number 17 is Wilma Flintstone, which I think is appalling. How did Wilma Flintstone get a higher ranking than Betty Rubble? First of all, Betty is 21. Wilma is 17. I don't think that there are any two people out there that realistically would put Betty and Wilma right next to one another and then say that Wilma came out in the winning end. I can't see that happening. And I can't be the only person thinking that. It's nuts. 15th on the list is Betty Boop. I think Betty deserves to be way up on top of that. I mean, I personally think that Betty Rubble is really the number one person, but Betty Boop would be right after her for me. Betty Boop was sexual as hell to be a cartoon character, and it is amazing that this list didn't come out before. They clearly were going out of their way in order to give you a certain image with Betty Boop. Tinkerbell, which is on here, which I think is just sick as hell, is number 8. That's just, I don't even want to talk about that. Wonder Woman is on here. Again, that's nuts. That's insane. Lola Bunny is number 6. Kim Possible is on here as number 3. Now, Kim Possible is a current cartoon character, I believe on the Disney Network or the Cartoon Network or something like that. I can see where they're coming from. I can see what they're getting at, but it's still, there's a childlike phenomenon that's associated with Kim Possible that I think it's improper for her to be on the list. I think that would be like Hannah Montana being on the list of sexiness. She may be sexy to certain people, but adults shouldn't be saying it. Not yet. Betty Rubble, Betty Boop, even Wilma Flintstone has been around long enough to have earned the ability to be called sexy. But Kim Possible, it's way too early for her. And number 1 on the list is Jessica Rabbit, which I do get. I get it. But I still say that it's nuts. It should be, Betty Rubble should be at the top of that list. That's what I say. I should have remade this list. I should have made this list and put things in their proper order.